Thanks everybody for coming and taking, I know your summer breaks have just started for most of you because of all those crazy winter days. So thanks everybody for taking time out of your summer. I'm glad we got you here on a rainy day, so you couldn't be outside anyways. I've already been to a couple of high schools to administer the MPE to start for the fall. If anybody else has a fall class and your students need the MPE, just let me know. I'll come, I'll get them admitted, and then I'll be back a week later and I'll do the MPE with them. So just let me know, email, phone call, and we'll get that set up for you. Barron County, they usually can go over to the Glasgow campus and do it, but if you want me to come, I'll come there too. So just let me know, and I'll be more than happy to get to your high school for a visit. I'm going to get out of y'all's way now. Get started.
The scary thing is that this has somehow turned into a workshop, which is not actually my intent, and I haven't prepared like a PowerPoint or anything crazy like that. I will show you a couple things I've done in my class, but really I wanted to get together with everyone and just discuss the possibility of doing our dual credit in a slightly different way. And it's using a technique that I've kind of used in some of my classes, actually most of the classes I've taught lately. I should introduce myself. I'm the department head of the math department at Western, Bruce Kessler. And so I don't get to teach as much as I used to. I enjoy teaching. I don't know if the kids enjoy me teaching, but I enjoy teaching. And I'm always trying to improve upon what I've done and find different ways of reaching kids. And it occurred to me that, and I started as traditional as they come. I taught like the folks who taught me, and I would work really hard on getting this massive lecture together, and they would just knock them dead, and then give them a homework assignment, come back the next day and say, any questions? And a few times they'd say, yeah, we work a problem or two. And then I go on about my business. And what I've kind of come to the realization of, and maybe it's opinion, but I strongly feel this way, that I'm helping them the most when I'm actually helping them work problems. When I'm walking around the room, they're working, I'm helping, or they're up at the board and we're working things as a group. To me, that's more of a two-way flow of communication. Me lecturing is primarily me lecturing. There will be students who occasionally ask me questions. They're brave. I strongly believe that there's lots of times plenty of people have questions. They're just not brave enough to raise their hand and ask. So it occurred to me that I could, if I'm doing a one-way flow of information, kind of like I'm doing right now with you guys, although please ask questions, that I could simply record that and have that on record somewhere so that they can access it at their disposal at whatever speed they want to watch it, take their notes that way, take note of things that I didn't explain clearly, things they have questions about, and then we spend class time actually fooling around with the problems. And I invented that, I thought, and once I got to looking into it, it's a technique that's been used before. It's called the term that they use is flipped classroom. So actually, are you familiar with that term at all? Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. If you're not, it was actually, I think, first used by a couple of chemistry teachers, high school chemistry teachers, who I think they were team teaching a couple of different classes throughout the day, and they just said, why are we saying this 5 times? Say it once. And then come to class and do all the stuff, the problems and the kind of hands-on kind of things in the class. I've been using this technique in my class, and I really like it. And what I'm here to talk to you today about is the possibility of maybe doing this with our dual credit 116s. I want you to understand, and this is why I wanted to look you in the eye and tell you this, it's not because I think anybody's doing a bad job. This isn't a quality issue, it's a learning issue. I really do think this is a nice way of helping our students learn the material. And in my case, I think it's been a better use of my time. I know that there's pros and cons, and I'm going to harp on the pros for just a moment. I know that my students have appreciated being able to access the lectures whenever they wanted to, you know, at home, at night, in their pajamas, whatever it is. They've enjoyed being able to go back if they missed class and have a record of what was said. I know many of my students review the lectures before the exams. They go back and look at things. And I've done more than lectures. I've actually, after we go over homework and do problems in class, I'll actually go back and work them again, just so there's a record of how we did them. And which seems to work a lot better. At one point, I was taking pictures of things and posting them, and even posting notes, thinking that would help through. But I think at the active part of you know, taking their own notes, but not having to worry about missing anything, has been helpful. There are some cons associated with this, and that's why we have to be smart about it if we decide to do it. You know, you can say, well, then what's the use of coming to class? You know, if you got the lecture, that's the biggest complaint. How do you know they watched the lecture and those kind of things? What you can do, and I've been pretty lucky. I normally keep upper level stuff, so I'm not too concerned about the motivation of students. They're all motivated. They all want to learn this stuff. But what you can do, certainly if you're doing things that are fairly mechanical in nature, is just start class with a quiz. Where you say, and maybe the quiz involves exactly the problems that were in the lecture. You know, and maybe it involves things like, okay, did the lecturer have his glasses on, or was he wearing contacts? You know, simple things where they're not thinking about that. They're like, oh, he didn't wear glasses. You know, that's a sign. And I think what you would learn is that after doing that for a little while, the challenge is to get them to actually doing this as part of their routine. And once it's part of their routine, it's not such a challenge. Okay. My two concerns, though, with you guys here today is interest and logistics. One, you know, interest. I'm perfectly willing during the month of July to go through, take the things that we variously talk about in the 116 class, and develop lectures that could be used for a flipped classroom. I don't want to do it though if nobody's going to use it. If everybody prefers to teach their own, that's fine. And again, I'm not in any way taking the teaching out of your hands by doing that. The real teaching, like I said, comes when you're kind of going around the room. However you run that, you've got students up at the board working problems, or you've got kind of like a gang tutoring thing going on, or however you choose to do it. Lord,
for the most part, their kids are better kids than what we have in the gen ed classes, because we've got such a range in our classes.
Well, we screen pretty good too, I've learned.
And when I told them, as I said, you know, if in your lectures you're showing some examples and they can do the homework, then one of the things they talked about is some of the ones that we went to where they had done these things, they gave them the application problems, the more involved problems, but they worked them in groups, you know, so you had a group of kids working, and so you actually got them to do the application problems while you're there to help them with it. So they've got better kids for the most part than we have, and they just had Algebra 2 for the most part, I mean a little bit. So for them, it's a little bit way to keep them a little bit more challenged than thinking, I won't just retake an Algebra 2 again that I just had.
Well, it's you've got a lot of leeway with how you want to handle that. You know, if you choose to go this route. The challenge, I think, for most folks is that it's much less structured than what we're used to. I know in high school, structure is a big thing. Even in college, it's a big thing. The majority of our professors still get up. Any questions from the homework? In calculus, they've got a recitation section, so they don't even say that. You know, okay, everything good for recitation, right? And they get on about their business. And there's value to that, but it's one of these things that's kind of disappearing from our lives. the notion of this information is here right now, and if you miss it, it's gone. The most, honest to goodness, one of the most frustrating things to me is listening to the radio in my car. Because if I'm at home and I hear the end of something, they're like, wait, what? There's an explosion where? There's a wreck where? What? I can rewind that and see what they're talking about. In my car, it's just gone.
I tried to just rewind.
Yeah, it's
I
gone.
didn't rewind that.
And really, that's the way our standard lectures are. If you're there the day it's given, okay. If you are distracted by a piece of string like I tend to be, like, oh, look, a butterfly, you may miss an important point. And depending on the speed at which people deliver stuff, you have Kyle Wallace and Clay. They're going to tape this. He's going to see this, so I'm not criticizing Kyle. Super duper professor, actually. Fastest note giver though I've ever seen in my life. Chalk in one hand, eraser in the other. And man, if you blinked, it was gone. And I was never a great note taker. So to me, the notion of being able to pause. Let me get this down. Okay. Wait, I missed that. Rewind. And go back and have it. And then go back and check later if you're working on the problem. You're like, wait, he did something like this. Let me go back and... Okay. So I'm willing to put that work in up front and kind of have just the dry content as a matter of record. And then if you guys want to take that and then use it and teach the classes that way, it'd be kind of an experiment. And if we don't like it, the good thing, I guess, is that you can walk away from it any moment. I mean, you can really just say, this guy's a lunatic. This isn't working, whatever it is, and just go back to doing what you're doing. You can't. My other concern, I brought this up, is logistics. If we were doing this, all the students who take your courses have a Western ID. They can log into Blackboard. So we can put things like that on Integrity, just like I would for one of my classes. The question is, do the students have the ability to see them? And I guess that's an open question.
There is an app for Integrity for your
I
iPhone.
know, yeah.
Because I've used it for my class.
Honestly, most of the kids have a smartphone now.
Right, yeah.
Everything that I did, and this would be a good time for me to show you what they look like so you can see what I'm talking about. But everything that I did in my 310 class, which I taught in the spring, I immediately, Integrity Boy, uploaded to YouTube. So, because I had a student who says, I can't see the Integrity lectures. I said, well, can you watch a YouTube video? Well, sure. I was like, okay. So the next time we met, I had it all set up and I had uploaded all everything to YouTube. I said, did you get it? It's like, yeah.
No excuses.
No excuses now, right? Let me show you what these look like. And if you've ever taken an online class or something, you may have seen this, but just in case you haven't, let me show you what these look like. This was I'm sure filmed at like 4 a.m. because I didn't have my contacts in yet.
Hey there, folks. Let's talk about counting. And we've spent a little time in class today actually talking about this. But let's get it down and have it as a matter of record. And
Can you see?
really what I want to do is review just a little bit. Let's
Can you
talk
see this?
about...
I don't have a document camera at home. I took a locker shelf.
what we've talked about so far.
that I got
So
from
we've talked
Container
about
World,
the
and I set my
bundle and
iPad
the-
on it.
Huh.
The iPad has a camera,
Yeah.
video camera, and I Skyped it. You can see the Skype logo here from my iPad.
Which basically says if you
to
have
my computer,
a series of tasks that are,
and that's my document.
categorized here, and you've got so it
And what
relates
we
to
can
this
also
task,
do,
it
it
relates
would
to
probably
this
be a
task,
little more
it relates to
lively
this
because I
task,
know if I'm the only guy there and I sit down,
is
starts to
is
lag
just
a
the
bit.
product of those things.
We could also do what we're doing right here, and that is set up a camera,
If we
Go
are
into the
dealing
classroom.
with
stand,
and ordered
But this is
selection
just
of
bare facts. That's what
are
we're doing, is just
things-
simply doing the bare facts.
from in possible items
I could probably go faster too if I was at the board, but
with
what the
unlimited
students will do-
repeats.
Actually, have you ever seen this? The students will watch me at 1.5 speed.
Then fundamental accounting principles say, okay, that's in choices for this one, in choices for that one, in choices for that one. And you got our things, so this would be into the.
Come on, faster, faster. We want chipmunks. Chipmunk speed.
Sometimes we did that.
and then when
If we talk
there's
about
something there that we'll write down,
selection,
the pause.
of our things from in possible.
The thing I do like about integrity
Items.
is that you got this. If you're
With
doing a doc hand, you
no
got
repeats.
this. Plus you've got this. Now this isn't very valuable at the moment, but for
Then
example, when I'm
we
talking
talk
about
about
something
limitations.
like mathematical induction,
And this is
I can't do that without using
divided by
my hands.
n minus r.
so I'm always like, okay, you prove the first case.
Then we talk
Prove that you
about,
got this one, you got that.
let's say we're looking at
You
a
got this one, you
collection.
got that
So
one.
an unordered collection
Well, if you got to do that talking with your hands thing, you
Yeah.
got it here.
of our things.
Now,
So
we'll tell you
what's
this.
videoing you right now?
In possible.
That's the doc cam on my laptop.
And
I have my
then
laptop
we-
open in front of me. The webcam on the, not doc cam, the cam
Then we
on
talk
my
about
computer
combinations.
is filming me.
And so either
And
use
this
this
is the
efficiency
Skype.
in R or
This is what's on the screen of my computer.
binomial coefficient notation.
Gotcha.
In choose R.
You wouldn't have to
And
do
this is
this.
basically this, but you divide it out of it. You've got
This is what I'm
this user
supposing I
bottom
can
R factorial.
have there.
So you would do all the
And we built that over the last.
So in a way, that might be making things easier.
So now,
On the other hand,
look
though,
at
a less
situation where
structured
we-
classroom
we
means
like
that
the
you
other ways
have
of,
to, and I don't talk
we want to have
about
order
this.
selection of length in, so we're going back to ordered. So
A less structured classroom means that you have to be ready to go at whatever questions. You know, you're now the question answerer. So there's no way that you can't, this takes the lecture off of you, but you still have to go to class. You have to be ready to go on all the homework problems. If there's a question about, well, why do you do it that way? You have to be able to do basically everything I did.
Which most of them at this point have already taught the class, some for several years.
The content
so-
is not a challenge,
So
right? So I'd
that's
say
not
you're
really
probably ready
that
to
an issue for them.
go. I'll be honest with you, I like a classroom where there's a lot of talking and stuff, as long as it's talking about what we're doing. And that's fine. I know we've got teachers that they spend pretty much the whole class just students up the board. They've got people here, they've got people there. You know, the classrooms we had over at Thompson were really good for that because they had blackboards all over creation. They're still blackboards, but a lot of room for students to get up and work and you know, even parents, students who are doing pretty well with some that need a little help. If you can do that in such a way where you've got students actually doing some of the explaining, that's a great way for people to learn, actually, is to explain what's going on. I will say this about the lectures. These are lessons I've learned kind of the hard way. One, this lecture was way too long. At 44 minutes, it was basically what I would have done in class. The next time I do it, I'm going to be careful to take, this has several topics in it, by the way, which I would avoid doing. I would say, okay, first let's talk about fundamental accounting principles. 10 minutes tops. The other thing that I would do, and maybe they have to watch several of these for the next, but it gives them a break. They're used to shorter videos anyway. The other thing I learned by listening to Krista Maxon, who's department head of math at, right across the river in Ohio, Shawnee. Shawnee University up in Ohio. She's had great luck using this format with master's level classes. And they now have, they had a huge state grant to do that across the state of Ohio, and now she's preparing a huge NSF grant to do all their dual credit that way. But one of the things, she gave a presentation at WKU about this, and one thing she brought up was that never crossed my mind, but it's so obvious, I can't believe I didn't think of it. She said the first thing you have to do is train the students how to watch the videos, because it's a lecture, and they're not used to lectures. They're used to watching, sleeping cats fall off a TV, dogs barking at themselves in the mirror, cutesy stuff, right? The first meeting I had with these students, if I were going to use this, should have been, okay, let's talk about how we watch a lecture and take notes. And do just what I was doing here. Take the lecture and break it down. If it's too slow for you, speed it up. If you see something you want to write down, pause it. I mean, this is glaringly obvious stuff, but show them how to do it. Teach them how to take notes along with the lecture. It was a skill that I just assumed they would pick up on. But part of the problem we've had is that a lot of these students do watch them casually. They just watch them. No notes, no paper, no pencil. We look, oh, what's the lecture? They're good. Well, you actively watch it as opposed to passively watching. And you take notes, you do things. And I think once they got that training, once you kind of walk them through it, they know what to do. And it works much better. So if we're doing this, that's a couple of changes I would. Well, one I suppose would be on you folks, actually. To sit and say, okay, here's the first lecture. Let's do it. Let's watch it together. And talk about it. Let's pause. How do you take notes on this? But certainly shorter videos is a key. And a little more lively, too. Like I said. Oh, that's not me. Are we done?
Have you looked at my math lab? Does it have a thing to where you can put this on? I know I can do notes and things like that. I can scan things and put them on my math lab.
Laura, I have
see them, but I don't know if it has something to do.
I have to be
videos.
completely honest with you. I've not taught this since we went to the book that uses my math lab. The last time I taught college algebra,
Or in the other one.
yeah, it was all paper. It was all us.
Because I'm wondering, they may have something like that where you can upload that. I just haven't checked that out because I don't put videos on there. But I know I can upload, documents and things like that for them, because the kids are going to be on my math lab.
Right.
So if they can do it all in one fell swoop,
I would
that's
say
easier for them.
I would say put it everywhere. It's ready. Okay. I would say put it everywhere. Blackboard, YouTube. If it goes on my math lab, great.
Because otherwise they have to teach them about my Blackboard if they don't know it, or the technique.
It's actually quite simple. Like you said, there's an app.
And my math lab is based off of Blackboard, actually.
Okay.
It's not quite the same, but it's based off of it. It's very similar.
I would say put it everywhere. That way, no matter how students want to get to it, they can. And one of my concerns, though, with doing this out in the school systems, I'm not familiar with the computer situation that you have. I know many students may not have a computer at home, so doing things outside of class may be an issue for many of them. If they had a study hall and a computer lab at school, they would certainly do that.
But like you said, most kids, even if they don't have a computer at home, have some type of
Smartphone.
that they can get on
Yeah.
YouTube or to Integrity app.
And with them using the math lab, somehow they find computer access. They've had to do the math lab online.
And honestly, I mean, public libraries have these, I think I'm not dreadfully concerned about the access unless you got it. If you think it's an issue, then I'll back away. But I'm kind of like you. These kids are walking around with smartphones. Let me show you what this looks like on YouTube. You lose part of this in the upload. you lose the hand wavy part. All you get is what's showing on the computer screen. But if we do this with a camera and a whiteboard close enough, there is this issue of reducing the size down and still being readable. But for the most part, I think they are. Let me show you the same lecture.
Because that's what they had done in one of the classrooms. They did that, and then they would do example 1, example 2, example 3, and those were all separate. So the kids could watch as many examples as they needed to. So a kid who already knew the concept, maybe they just watched a couple and they were done, but there was 10.
Let's talk about counting. And we've spent a little time in class.
So now the hand wavy part's
this.
gone.
But let's get it down and have it as a matter of record. And
I guess it's up
really
here.
what I want to do
Very
is
small.
review just a little bit. Let's talk about.
Skype gives you a picture of yourself when you Skype stuff.
What we've talked about so far. So we've talked about the fundamental counting principle.
There's a little loss in resolution.
You can't speed it
I can speed it up. If I want to make it bigger, I can.
Which basically says if you have
large player to me is the best.
a series of tasks that are,
You get too big, it starts to get pixelized.
categorized here, and you've got so many ways to do this task, so many ways to do this task, so many ways to do this task, then the way to do the entire thing is just the product.
You can't speed it up.
Okay. If we are dealing with,
But you can scroll through the parts you want to see.
okay,
You can do that here, you can do that integrity.
times, and then we've got 8 factorial over 4 factorial, and then 8 minus the 4
one example, then have a second
factorial, times 7 factorial over.
Yeah, that was one of the nicer things she
Sorry,
said. It
4.
just helped the students that really needed it. They had plenty of examples to look at, and the ones who got it right off the bat, they weren't bored.
Well, and I'll tell you another thing too that I've been told you can do. I've not done it, but if we were going to do this, I would probably work with the DLO folks who have experts in this. But I know Krista, when she spoke about this, she actually builds little quizzes into the lectures. There's a point where a little window pops up, question 1, and somehow that feeds into her grading scheme. But I don't know how to do that. I guess I could learn. The DLO folks know I could learn.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that either.
Which I know on a high school level, well, my son, he's getting ready to be a freshman. The junior high level, he's been doing flipping the classroom at Bowling Green Junior High for a while.
Cool.
Some of his teachers have been doing that, and they do it through Modo, which I know a lot of high school and junior high, and starting in elementary, use Modo a lot. And you can do quizzes and tests and all that kind of stuff through Modo, but they do the flipping the classroom and watch the lectures, and then there's a quiz they have to take after that.
Which teachers are doing that?
A lot of his English teachers. Ms. Joyner at the junior high has been doing it.
Cool.
That was this year, last year, Ms. Passmore. A lot of the English teachers, the social studies teachers do it more, not as much in the flipping classroom, but as far as using Modo for quizzes and submission of papers and that whole kind of thing. So they've been doing it. So, you're going to start getting kids, it'll be a while, but you'll get kids that are used to this,
Mm-hmm.
Does that give you, because they were talking about that in the one that I went to too, does that give you different versions? Because that's one thing about my math lab is every time they pull it up, it's going to be a different version, same problems, but different
right.
numbers.
The testing
So
quizzes,
does
yes,
Modo do that?
you can, because I've kind of played with it. It's kind of a little bit harder to do it on, because I've been with geometry as far as, algebra, it's really easy to do it, but as far as getting the pictures in there, geometry is a little bit harder, but you can get different versions.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because that is one of the nice things about my math lab, because if you want
Right,
to give
yes.
a paper test, that's fine. Pull it up 4 times, and you got 4 different tests right there, and you just hand them out how you want them. You have to grade them by hand, but unfortunately.
Well, and really, any of those things could be used. I think it really depends on how you want to run the class.
Right.
And that's the point that that's why I wanted to look in the eye and tell you this. You guys are still teaching the class. You're still an instructor. You're still running the class. You're still grading everything.
Yeah.
This would be a resource that we would provide to you if you want to use it. And allow you. I've had a really positive experience spending more time in class working problems with students and less time just talking. And I've really come a long way on this. Like I said, I started just talking and thought that the work was what they did out of class. Now I'm kind of thinking my talking should be what's out of class, and us working is what we should be doing in class. It's easier for me to tell if a student is not understanding something when I'm looking over their shoulder or watching them at the board, observing them trying, rather than just give them a quiz or something like that. So I'm just throwing that out to you. What do you think?
I
No
think
pressure
short-
either. I mean, if you don't like it, don't like it. There's no expectation.
I'm with you, the shorter videos are better because
They're used to.
he started this in 7th grade. It's kind of like when the junior high kind of started, and the videos were longer. A 13-year-old loses interest
Yeah.
quite easily on a long video, so that helps.
Well, I've only taught Math 116 for 2 semesters now, but it's so fast-paced that I was looking for a different way this next time to do it, because I would spend the class time, trying to do lecture, let them do problems, but then their homework wouldn't be due then, and they'd put off doing their homework, but then you still have to go on with the next lesson because it's so fast-paced. So I was trying to think of something in order for them to be able to bring those problems in and, me provide those problems where they're actually working, where they've looked at it ahead of time. So I like this.
And do you teach on a block system?
I teach outside. I teach
Hers is
mornings
outside
and
for normal
afternoons.
hours.
Okay. Because at Bowling High, mine's going to be all year long. So I have
See, mine's
all the time in the world.
Yeah.
So
And Trina does it by semester, but she has them every day if she has to have them. And
Yeah.
you've got them
Every day for a semester.
for a semester.
Right.
So their time, they've got a lot more, and plus they start earlier and can finish later even for that.
But I've had several kids that have Blackboard classes, and they were asking about, online lectures, things like that. But, that they would, I need something to look at to refresh my memory
Mhm.
here. If we just had,
right.
And I've referred a number of students to things like Khan Academy.
yeah,
Yeah.
they all know about that.
It is what it is. And I'll be honest, I've used it just to refresh my memory about, I taught, in the fall, I taught mathematical modeling, which doesn't mean walking up and down the runway with math symbols on it. It's taking real situations and describing them mathematically. And one of the things I had that came up in the course of that was simulations. There's some things that are very difficult to calculate, but you can run simulations that have probabilities in them, right? And sometimes this happens, sometimes that happens. What's the average? So you can run simulations, and the question of how many simulations do you need to run to be fairly accurate in what you're doing involves the central limit theorem. Well, I haven't seen that since I was in school. I'm not a probability person. But, so I went on Khan Academy, it's like central limit theorem. Oh, 2 or 3 lectures, I was good to go. Now that's, but it was a refresher for me. It's okay. It's a kind of a talking hand thing, right? There's talking, there's a hand, and kind of what I had here is kind of talking. I think, the difference with us is this would be more, section here, and then this little piece of that section.
Right.
So it's kind of catered to our audience.
The thing with my kids is that they ask for me. So we want to see you do it. I don't want to watch the Khan Academy guy. I want to watch you.
Yeah.
I want to hear you explain it.
Well, would they trust me, though? Would they still want to see you if I'm doing it?
I don't
But you
know.
could start it with this, it'd be easier.
I mean, I could come out to Russell and say, hey, how you doing? I'm Bruce Kessler. I'd love to come out to Russell and say, hey, I'm Bruce Kessler. I'm department head of mathematics.
Right.
You could start with it, and then if
This
they
is
just
my
like
hand.
it-
You're going to be seeing a lot of this hand.
Because they're still going to see you in the classroom. That's the difference.
But how many math teachers have they
Well,
had
they
by
do.
the time they're at Math 116? 16th, they had tons. So the way I explain it
Russell
will be different than the way you explain it, and they might get the way he's doing it better than the way I showed it in
And
class.
I agree.
You know?
Multiple presentations
Right.
are great.
Yeah.
But you're still there in the classroom
Right.
to do it a
Say,
different way.
the
Yes.
way you did
Yeah.
it, you know, is a little bit different on the video, you know, and so I think it's.
Well, I strongly believe that even if I'm doing this, you're still the people teaching the class.
Right.
I think the learning takes place when they. How many of you? I mean, I've had tons of kids tell me, like, that made perfect sense when you were explaining it.
Then I go.
Then I try to do the homework and it didn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
That's where they learn. Is when
Yeah.
they start doing it, not when they're watching me.
And like she said, you know, they, you know, put off doing the homework because it's not assigned for, not due for a couple days in my math lab. So
And you can be very creative about how you run that class with the lecture part already, you know. Maybe grouping them together to work on problems,
Well, and one
have
of
them
the
at the
things
board. There's
Trina
tons of
asked
things you can
me
do.
was if we, and Leslie may be able to help do this too, and Robin could provide them with some of the a little bit more challenging application problems that we might use in ours, if we would just provide, some guidance on even that part, so that they had at least some of that, because the rest of it's on my math lab. But I mean, and you could pick some different things from my math lab, even though we didn't include it in the homework. Some of those problems, because you all have the textbook, so you can see what it is, and you can pull up what you want and run it off.
Well, I really like the idea of having, I think every lecture would have one or two examples, but then additional examples.
Yeah.
And maybe, like bone
Yeah,
crushingly
they just put
difficult
a bunch on
examples.
there, and they just kept doing them and doing them.
And here's a
they
hard
get
one.
progressively harder, yeah.
Yeah, here's a hard one.
And so you can do easy, medium, hard, you can classify them and stuff. But then because the one thing I've tried to get with them is uniformity. So everybody's kind of teaching the same stuff, which with my math lab, they've got the homework, they've got the quizzes, they've got the test, and they can still up them if they want to, because again, their kids are a little bit better. You don't want them to be bored.
That is one of the
But-
things I like about my math lab is that if they really want to do more, they can.
Yeah, but to get them some uniformity as to what they're doing in their classroom activities, Leslie and Robin may want to. Robin Ayers is going to be taking you all over for next year for me.
I thought you could hear that.
Unless I can convince Bruce to let me teach. In which case, I know. I might even teach next semester for you if we can work it out. Anyway.
We can definitely work that out if you're around. Are you around?
I could be
I got
around.
you on tape here.
I could be around if we could do a flipped classroom where I'm online the next semester. But I could do another semester because I know summer's leaving. I just heard that. Anyway, I'm hoping to stay. I'm working it. Anyway, but that's one of the things that I wanted their classes, because I know when I had Lisa Rhodes at Butler County, she said, Laura, I want my class to be your class. I want it to be exactly what they get if they were at Butler Western. And so that she wanted that to where it was perfectly like what we would teach at Western. That way she can say, this is exactly the class you would take there. And so we can provide some of those problems just to give you some idea of, and again, you all can raise the bar. You can make it more challenging for them because you do have a little bit, our kids, we've just got such a gamut. We have to kind of go middle of the road a little bit, but if they're working in groups and you make sure you pair a weaker student with a stronger student that can help explain it, then you can get back past that hurdle too, which is what we have to do. But it helps with your all's testing too, because you have to test at a certain time period because especially for you, since you're not teaching it during the school day, you don't have as much time with yours as they do. Because they can even break their test up into two parts if they want to. Have y'all had trouble testing in a 55-minute period with that? When you've done your test?
No, I run over in the next class.
You do?
Yeah,
That's okay.
I just go tell the next teacher that, listen, we're testing today, so
And if
next
you
thing
have
we
trouble-
do.
class was 90 minutes.
Okay, so you've been fine with that. Because like I said, ours is geared for 2 hours, but most
Yeah,
of
most
our
of
students,
them,
most
they
of our
get done,
students
yeah.
do not take, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, but
Right.
my top kids don't even take 47 minutes at the most.
Well, the kids I got, they work them twice, so.
Yeah, which is good.
Oh,
Now,
give him a hug, man. I love those.
see, he started his class because they came to him and wanted to take this class.
I definitely.
So that's the only
understand.
reason he did it, is because they wanted it.
Yeah. We got several kids in the nursing program, but that's all they need is 116.
Yeah.
So, they're finished out their math already.
Well, and
They're
this
a little more
probably,
motivated than, some, just your regular college.
and this is, now this only counts if they're coming to WKU, but if they're coming to WKU now and have a math ACT score of 26 or higher, we'll give them credit for 116.
That's what Trent was asking, and it was just for Western.
It's just
not
us,
statewide.
so that's part of our new Gen Ed, the Colonnade program, that will provide, in much the same way that if you have, I think it's 24 that are in English, they'll give you English 100 credit. But that doesn't happen unless you come to WKU. The advantage of taking the course is that's Western credit and transfer wherever.
Do you know what transfers, like the different state schools here in Kentucky, what it transfers as?
It's 150 now, isn't it?
The registrar's office, I know how everything transfers from everywhere.
Okay.
There's
Yeah, they
a
got it.
link on our registrar's office.
So I had some students that were asking me if they wanted to.
Through the
And they're coming to Western.
KCTCS program,
Also,
I think it's
well,
150.
also this too.
Whatever their college algebra is. They all have the same name, college algebra.
So it's going to transfer to some type of college algebra class.
Yes.
Well, I say that, I mean,
Maybe if you
the
went to
transfer,
Western, maybe not.
well, the transferability is up to the school they're going to.
Okay.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is we accept their courses, so I would fully expect them to accept ours.
And the other
But you
thing
have to
along
check
that
that.
lines with that I really keep emphasizing with you all is if you have a kid who's going to be taking a science field or a business field or something where they're going to need trig or they're going to need calculus, they don't need to be in this class.
Right.
They need to be staying with trig and they need to be staying calculus at the high
AP
school
calculus,
level.
yeah.
And then take the trig MPE, maybe not even have to take the trig class and they can go straight into calculus that way. Or if they're doing the AP calculus, of course, they can take the test and get rid of that credit then.
Right.
But they don't need, you gotta get those kids out of that 116 who don't need to be in there.
A good bone-crushing pre-calculus followed by AP calculus is the
Okay.
route I would take, if they're wanting to go into the
So
science.
I have a lot of
Math
kids that
science.
are doing elementary education. This would be the only thing. They need nursing, some in nursing
But
students.
elementary ed wants them in 109, they don't want them in 116.
But the 116 was the vice one.
It's just a gen ed math. If they come to us at WKU.
It's not gonna turn them out, but the 109 helps prepare them because they have a special
We
teaching
have,
section.
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
we
And
have
it helps
special,
them for 211, it's not, is it 211, 212 still? They changed it.
205,
203,
206.
205,
But we have a
so it's
special
this-
treatment
It helps
of
them
the,
just for that,
of the general math course for teachers.
for the elementary ed.
That's very good. But all they really have to do is get their general ed math out of the way before they take the 205 and 206, the old 211, 212. Yeah. So what are you thinking? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Would you want me to spend some time doing this?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think our kids would, I think my kids would use it. for
Okay.
sure.
Definitely.
Okay, well, we can do that, and I'll get with the DLO folks and discuss the best way. I mean, this is, the advantage I see of using a document camera or even my locker shelf document camera is that you are pretty close to the action. And my concern with a camera like this is that it may not broadcast what's being written very well.
Right, that's true.
And so I'm kind of leaning towards a doc cam kind of thing, like talking hand kind of thing like this. I do like the integrity lecture though, where if I need to do, my thing with my hands, I can still do it.
And I do like having the quiz, maybe just a small quiz question, and during the lecture, that's pretty good. I know that we're in Central, Carol DeVos and Hart County, they were all interested in it. So
Okay.
the only one I have to talk to is Laura there from
Well,
Mexico.
and I think this is the reason we're taking things, because they couldn't be.
But they were definitely interested in it too, so just about everybody was pretty pleased with the switch.
Well, then what I'll do is, I'm actually teaching Vandy, if you're familiar with Vandy, through the second week of July. And I think I'll just take those next 2 weeks of July and I really would like to just get them done and have them there. And then if you spot anything along the way that needs to be fixed, I can always go back in and
We do it.
redo it.
Just because, especially if they're 5 to 10 minute little
That's a mistake I realized
Yeah, I think
in the
so.
middle of this semester, actually, is that these got to be short. They have to be shorter. And
Are y'all okay? You think your kids will be okay with the access to it and stuff, either through a smartphone or a home computer?
computer lab.
You know, we computer lab, they got their own laptops, and, you know, everybody's got a smartphone
Yeah,
set.
So they're good on that, okay.
And this does, the other thing is, I mean, this does come through on a smartphone. It's kind of small, but they have young eyes, if that seems.
Well, can't they take it and blow up a part if they had to?
With a
Maybe.
video, I don't know if they can. Can you blow up a video? I don't think so.
I don't think you
Yeah.
can. It's invested on.
And I mean, if we came right down to it, the other advantage of doing it like this with paper, and I did this for a while, and then I thought, yeah, maybe this is working against me. But I would then just scan this stuff, and I could post that as well.
So that's what I do with mine.
Well, I did too, but then I thought, you know, I'd rather have them, like we said, actively taking their own notes. So, I can certainly send them to you guys, though.
Yeah, because we could upload them to teacher website, or you can just email them out to the students.
Or if somebody had a question about what was said, at least you know you got a nice clean version of the lecture notes from me anyway.
And I don't know if y'all use Remind 101, do you use Remind 101? They're allowing you to add attachments to that. I don't know if it's videos now, but that's something new that they're allowing you to add is attachments. So hopefully videos, but I don't know if that's okay. You can add documents.
But to read the other thing I learned in the middle of the last semester was I really should spend some time at the beginning of class saying, okay, here's how you take notes when you're watching these things. So, just explaining to them the fact that you can speed this up. It's too slow for you. You can stop it. You can rewind it. You can come see this later. If you're in the middle of homework and you have a question, like, oh, that doofus did a problem like this. Go back and take a look at it.
Maybe I won't get so many phone calls at home then.
It'll be worth your while then, right?
Oh, it's kind of fun working math over the phone.
I know.
It's like trying to type math in on a computer something.
I've had a ton of students call me at 10 o'clock because they are just frantic. Isn't it amazing though, sometimes they only need like one little nudge. Like, oh, and they're gone. So that's that classroom though, I get to do that with my class.
And it is nice because on my math lab, they have that ask my instructor question, so it sends exactly the problem they have because there's so many versions of that. It sends exactly their problem, and you don't have to give them the answer. But I always tell mine, I say, you got to tell me what you're trying and what you're getting, and then I can help you figure out where you're making a mistake.
Well, I'll tell you another
So
thing
that's nice.
that I'm trying to do, and it's very difficult because, again, it's completely against the way I was taught when I was in college. But the young lady that Laura mentioned earlier, Summer Mattea, who just was announced as the university faculty award winner for teaching, and she is phenomenal. She's great.
And she does this a lot.
She does these kind of things, and she uses a lot of different resources, actually. But the thing she does that just is amazing to me is she never directly answers a question. They'll say, what's the answer to number 5? And she'll say, well, I don't know.
What did you get?
What did you check with your neighbor and see what they got? Have you checked the answer? Is it a plausible answer? She never says, oh, it was 3. Which is what I did, and she explained to me like this, it's like, do you remember the first time you figured out a problem that someone else couldn't get? I'm like, well, I don't remember the first time, but I remember doing that several times. And she's like, wasn't that fun? I was like, yeah. Like, well, if they come up to, if you'd have gone to your teacher and asked for help and they just worked it out for you, they would have cheated you of that moment. Right. So I try to catch myself sometimes saying, well, it's complicated, isn't it? That's what. So,
Well, you all can spend more time too working. My students still have trouble checking their work on their calculators. You know, they still don't know how to do that because you can tell it because they make a simple mistake and have never checked it. So now they have more time to do calculator type things even in the class just to make sure they do know how to check.
Well, and I firmly believe, you know, we do have some content that we want to get across to them so that they can proceed to the next class and succeed. Or B, you know, if it's their last class, so that they have the skills that they need for their career, whatever it is. But I really think the most important thing we teach them is to think and figure stuff out, because there's no way on earth we can show them everything they're ever going to need to know.
Although this class sure tries it. You all agree. It tries.
So, you know, getting them to where they don't depend on me for the answer is one of the goals. Well, I won't keep you here. I was really hoping that Robin would